Today I'm creating a terrarium for carnivorous plants. The first thing I want to do is set up my workspace to make sure I can have a controlled environment. After that, I'll lay out the materials I'm going to use to make this terrarium. I'll go into specifics later in the video of the exact items and where to find them, and I'll also add links in the description. The reason you want to build terrarium for your carnivorous plants is because their environment is very specific. The Venus flytrap can be found in the wetlands of North Carolina, and sundews can be found in Montana, both very damp and humid areas. Step 1, you want to create a foundation. I'm using corks that I cut in half, but I've also seen stones used and sand occasionally. You want your terrarium to drain. The key to having a terrarium is maintaining humidity levels, but you don't want to waterlog the plant. I also like choosing cork because it creates a really cool contrast and I think adds to the overall aesthetic of the actual terrarium. Once I've created an even foundation, I'm going to move on to the next draining material I will be using, which is sphagnum moss. Sphagnum moss, you don't want it to be too compact, you want it to be kind of airy, so I would actually fill it up to about here, and then I would just let it fall as it naturally falls. This is terrarium sphagnum moss. I got it on Amazon. I'll include the link below. And as you begin placing it, go ahead and let it fall how it naturally wants to fall. You can break it apart in your fingers, but you don't want to press it down. I'll even try to get it in between those spaces between the cork. Again, I'm doing this because I like the contrast it creates with the cork, and eventually the ultimate contrast is going to create with the peat moss or the soil that you can use. They do sell a carnivorous soil on Amazon. I thought it was a little bit too pricey. This peat moss I got at Homedepot. You want to follow the same method you did with the sphagnum moss and just kind of let the peat moss fall as it naturally does, sift it a little bit, but you don't really ever want to press it down. Compacted dirt can rot roots or waterlog them. The plants I'm using is a Venus flytrap I got at Homedepot and a small sundew and a small Venus flytrap I got at my local nursery. I'm going to try and be really careful while unboxing these because the heads tend to be very delicate. Watch me break the plant before it even comes out. When removing the plant to transplant it, be careful with the roots. You don't want to touch them too hard, kind of leave them as they are. And to place it within the terrarium, I'm going to use my fingers to create a hole deep enough to cover about 2/3 of the plant. I'm going to put the biggest one in the middle because I don't want the head squished up against the glass, but mainly because I like the way it looks. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put the purple Venus flytrap I got at my local nursery, and the sundew I'm going to go ahead and put on the other side. So I'm careful not to press down on the dirt while transplanting. I'm going to use a chopstick, but I'm sure a pencil or anything else works fine, to kind of just sift the dirt around to make sure all the sides are covered and kind of just push it up against the plant a little bit while still leaving some space. Because now I'm going to use another layer of sphagnum moss. The sphagnum moss has a great texture for the final layer of your terrarium because it can retain water but also drain pretty quickly. I'm going to use this chopstick to kind of push it around all the corners and cover the whole root system of each plant because I don't want them exposed. After I ensure that every side of the plant is covered, I'm going to swap out my chopstick tool for a makeup brush tool. The makeup brush tool I'm going to use to brush off any dirt that flew into the mouth of the plant or that's on the leaves. Try to avoid the temptation to use your finger to activate the Venus flytrap to close. This could ultimately end up killing your plant in the long run. Lastly, I'm going to use little ceramic ornaments I found at the dollar store, a little mushroom and a little frog, and I'm going to use them kind of to anchor down the corners, but also as a cute decorative additive. The final step is watering. I bought this cute little spray bottle on Amazon. I'll include the link in the description, but more importantly is the type of water you use. You should only be using distilled water or rainwater when watering these plants. Tap water could again end up killing your plant. I water my plants twice a week or whenever it just looks too dry. Ideally, you want to keep your terrarium by a window, but in my case, since I don't have a window, I set it out for about an hour a week near my sliding glass door in order to form condensation. Once the condensation starts to disappear, I know that it needs a little more sun time.